Of the school building committee to order at 5:30. I believe we have a quorum present. With me is Vice Chair Jacoby, Superintendent Sawyer, Jason Parento, Jackie, Jerry, Kate Campbell's in the back, Mr. Stanton, Mr. Geddes, and Andrew Acosta. Did I miss anybody?
Mark Furtado.
Did I miss Mark? Mark. Oh, Mark, my apologies. And Mark Furtado. All right. Having said that, let's start off with the approval of the minutes from October 18th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any revisions, comments on the minutes of October 18?
I do,
Oh, Mr. Stanton.
yes. On roof leaks. The screen wall at Gym Post, which allowed the screen wall slid or was moved. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so that we had a previous leak at a similar screen wall post in the gym that was repaired. The new leak that came up was a couple screen wall posts down from the original one. So I think the leak shifted from one post to another.
What is a post? I'm not sure, I know.
So if you look on the top of the roof, there's like kind of a metal screen that hides the view of the rooftop units. So those posts are anchored down to the metal decking. And so there was water getting into those posts and then working its way through the roof.
Now, that screen, what is that made out of?
Aluminum.
It is. Is that a systemic problem that when we get a real high wind or hurricane, that's gonna?
No, so
roof up?
the structure that supports that screen is galvanized so that it withstands weathering. When they galvanize it, they have to drill holes into it to allow the they dip it in like a big tank of galvanizing paint. And so when they do that, they have to drill relief holes into it to allow all that galvanization to dry out. And so we thought there was a hole in one of those posts that didn't get filled, which is where that water is coming from. It ended up not being that. We actually found a bad seal on the bottom of the post where the roof kind of wraps around the bottom of the post, and then there's a caulk joint that seals it. We found there was a hole in that caulk joint, and that was the source of the leak.
The framing shouldn't move.
Doesn't move, yeah.
Shouldn't move, but even if it did move and deflect under wind load, the roofing boot that comes up and flashes around the post is flexible because it's made out of the same PFC material as the roofing. So it should move with it, even if it did move, but it really shouldn't move.
But it did in this case.
No, it didn't. What happened was that there was a bad seal. The roofing membrane gets heat welded together. And sometimes, humans being humans, they miss something or it isn't done completely, and sometimes it takes a while for it to show up. And in this case, the boot that was coming up that was heat welded, they missed a spot, and that's where the water was getting in. Sometimes it just takes a while for the water to get blown in the wind a certain way to be able to evidence itself that can be repaired.
Thank you.
All set, Ed?
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments or concerns about the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, minutes of October 18 approved. Let the record reflect that Scott Dominici has joined us. Hello, Scott.
Hello?
All right, it's time for the update.
All right. As you can see, we made some good progress with the sod, starting with the baseball field. The sod is 100% complete. Sprinklers, irrigation is fully operational, running off of a time clock. All the perimeter areas have been hydroseeded and are coming in nicely. Our landscaper is maintaining it as needed for now. All the bleachers, dugouts, fencing has been completed. Batting cages have been completed. We did some training with Jason and his group on how to take down the batting nets and some of the winterization processes. There's some ball netting that can go up or down in the winter as needed. So baseball is pretty much complete. We were able to close up that little section of sidewalk that we were using for access into the baseball field. So that's been poured. And this area actually got raked and hydroseeded today. And so all these cones are out of there now. Lot D, this has been final paved and line striped. Kate, thank you for letting us get in there and do that. So that's been completed. Like I said, the final line striping is complete. All these areas have been hydroseeded and are coming in. We hydroseeded this today, this area. The tennis courts are essentially complete. We do have some punch list items that will have to get addressed in the warm weather in the spring. So we'll work with Mark Cool and the athletic department to schedule those repairs. They're minor repairs, nothing preventing the tennis courts from being used if you guys wanted to open them up. The gates themselves are getting installed this week, and we're working with facilities, Jason and Shannon, to get locks on those so you guys can manage that how you want. We were asked to hold off on installing the nets themselves, so those are in a Conex box at Highland, and we'll install those in the spring. And there's a wall ball board that right here in this corner that was installed as well. The added posts and signage were installed here at this access road. We're just waiting on the chain to get installed, but the posts are installed. Once the chain's here, we can put the finished cap on it, and that'll block off any unwanted access. We did reinstall. There's an existing chain down here that we hung back up because we were experiencing some people trying to drive down here from Capron, and then once they get here, they realize they probably shouldn't be there, and then they back up. So we put this chain back in, which has helped. And Mayor, we mentioned just with the Parks and Rec or someone putting some signage up on the Capron Park side.
Yep, so the chain's up, and then I was there the other day, it has a lock. Derek is gonna keep it locked, so yes, and we can add a sign that it's, special events only or something like that, but.
Okay. At the L building, still we're just using that as our kind of office. Our plan is by the end of the month to have that all emptied out. There's just a couple desks left in there. The water fountain on the back side of this, that has been installed. It's operational. We turn the water off for the winter, but it does work. There's just a valve on the inside, Jason. Yeah. It's self-draining, but just still good to clean out the line, and that's all set. This is the multi-purpose field. So as you can see, the sod's been completed. Sprinklers are operational. Again, these are on fully operational on a time clock. No manual watering needed. The perimeter fencing is complete.
Corey, does that irrigation come from the wells we drilled?
Yes. So there's
Then pump into an underground tank?
Yep. So there's one well here and another well over here. They both are piped to. There's two large storage tanks right here. So the wells pump to that storage tank, and then they pump out from there. Based on the well drilling results, like one well has a certain makeup of not chemicals, but like manganese and iron and whatever that comes from the natural wells. So there's a certain mixture of well A to well B to make the preferred mix of. So there's not too much iron or not too much manganese, not too much any other minerals that are in the soil.
Is there any consideration? I think the new high school field. I think I see rust, like from the sprinklers on the light poles or whatever. It's like mineral deposits.
Yeah, so that's why the irrigation consultant determined what that best mixture is between well A and well B based on the well results.
Shouldn't be happening.
Shouldn't be happening, correct.
What was happening with the original wells, and you probably saw that on the stadium sidewalks and stuff like that, from those shallower wells that had a lot of iron content and they was staining the concrete.
Will the new wells be tied into the old ones, or are those separate systems?
Separates.
The old ones, I don't think are actually functioning anymore, because that was what was operating for,
Andrew,
Any of
when,
the
uh,
old-
turned everything orange over by the football stadium, we disconnected those wells and went to domestic water so that we didn't turn everything orange. That, it's my memory is that over by the stadium, it's on domestic water. These are, the new wells.
that old. that
There's
old
no
well-
irrigation at all
Now,
near the
that old
stadium.
well
The
had
old-
been doing the fields over off of Drummond Street. But when that became synthetic, we
Yes.
don't need to have the irrigation anymore. And so basically that became unnecessary. That well was on that side.
And then if for some reason the wells do not produce enough water that's needed, there's a domestic refill line that is fed from the L building, basically city water to fill the tanks as needed. But that only kicks on if the tanks get to a certain level and the natural wells aren't filling enough of that tank. So
These are
in
very,
a drought or something, right? And you still need to water your fields. It would
these are
come.
very deep wells, right?
They're 850 feet. That's multi-purpose field. So this week we started on the softball field. You can see we just got the kind of the first cut around the infield, and we have 2 more deliveries of sod this week. We hydroseeded the kind of perimeter of the field today. So this has all been hydroseeded now. And we're looking at all of next week as well for installing sod. We do have some rain forecasted, and with the holiday, it might push into the following week with the sod install, but that should be the last of the sod. Monday or Tuesday after Thanksgiving, we should be wrapped up with the sod install.
And so you're looking at around December 1st for substantial completion?
Correct, yep. So KBA has been out, they've done a kind of initial review, and they'll be out to do a formal punch list of all these areas, the parking lots and the fields. Changing views here.
Jason's fence.
Yep. Let's see. Just quickly on this, so this is the last bit of fence that has been installed. We still have our temp fence right here, which will be coming down shortly. But this was the last bit of athletic fencing that just got installed the last couple days. And then we are working on kind of putting together a punch list on all the fencing. There's a lot of little things to keep track of. So we're trying to get ahead of that and make sure the fence guys take care of little sharp edges or rusting, that they take care of any of those before they leave for the winter.
Speed tables? Did we resolve all the
Quickly on
issues with
Jason's
them?
fence, so maintenance yard, that is installed. And they also made the modifications to the other 2 fencing, the chiller enclosures, so to match. They had installed it as like a continuous fence. It should have been a shadow box, so they alternate sides of the fence. So now those all match. They have the copper caps installed now, so those are all complete.
Lori, did the last part of the sidewalk on Rathburn,
That is not done because we're still trucking in the
Okay.
the sod
will
right
that
here.
be done in the spring or before then?
We could do it before. Well, it's easy enough to pour it during the winter, so we'll probably do it before.
I just know that's a route that the kids take.
Yeah.
If we could, that would, if it's feasible, I think that would be great.
Yeah, so we put the curbing in and we final paved this when we paved. Well, we didn't put all that curb in. We put more of the curb in, but we left a little bit out. So we'll put the curb in and we can finish that sidewalk probably first week of December then. Speed tables, so the 3 are installed. On the connector, there's one here, and one further down. Those three are installed. I believe Mike Tyler and the DPW, they've installed the signage. That's looks like they were working on that during this picture. There's two more left to be installed. I know there was some concerns and questions about whether the speed tables were too high. So we did some as-built of these speed tables and sent them to KBA and Skanska for review.
Reviewing them.
Yeah, so we're gonna hold off on putting the last two in until we confirm that there's no modifications needed to the speed table design before we install those last two.
And then, do you want to give us an update on National Grid and our PV array?
Yep. So Mayor, thank you for setting up that meeting with National Grid. We kind of reviewed the status of the interconnection agreement and the application. There's some legal documents that Griffin still needs to submit. But based on what National Grid explained to us, there's requirements to bring the PV arrays online, and there's a study that would have to happen, which could take a year or two. So Andrea with National Grid thought that she could get us into this pilot program because the PV array is so small, that we could potentially get into this pilot program, which would allow us to at least get these turned on. I think she said first quarter of 24. And that's like the soonest she thinks we could get these turned on. So
She did say that we would have to sign an agreement that we would not put power out into the grid, which isn't a problem because
that's the
only
preference.
provides 5% of the school. And the other thing she said is that Griffin had to install something that would be, if it was water, would be like a backflow preventer.
Correct, to
To
prevent any.
the power from going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So even if the building's closed and say all the systems are off, but the PVs are generating, for that one off chance that you're somehow generating enough power to, and the building is using, it doesn't allow any power back into the grid. So she said that would probably be the only thing that would need to be added.
The power's not going back to the grid. Why won't National Grid allow, if
Good
they're not
question.
even taking it, so why are they involved?
That has been our position from the beginning, but it sounds like any solar, even if it's just connected to the
The potential.
potential of it going back to the grid, they have say and control over it.
And what's still so they need a study to be done. What's the study?
Well, the study, Andrew, is a study of all of southeastern Mass because they have too many
Solar arrays coming
Too many
online.
solar arrays, and they're trying to figure out how to use it. What they've told us is that because we're not gonna be putting it out into the grid, we think we can be in this pilot program, which would allow it to be turned on, because this is on our side of the meter rather than on their side of the meter, if that makes sense to you.
Right.
So we probably will not have to wait for that study. But as long as we sign an agreement that we won't try to put power out into the grid, and we have this backflow preventer device in place. But the other thing is that they are a bureaucracy. So they have 10 days to review this, and 20 days to review that, and 55 days to review a third thing. And so all of that adds up to the time it's gonna take.
Well, we're not the only people putting solar panels on a roof. Why? I don't get why. It seems like this is new.
We aren't going back out to the grid, so they can fast track our interconnect. If we're gonna go back out to the grid, I don't know what she said, 2 years, a year and a half, some crazy.
Yeah, I guess there's a current study going on now that we missed.
Yeah.
And so we would have to wait for that study to be completed and then join the next available study, which that's why she's saying it could be 1 to 2 years out. So they seem pretty confident that the pilot program would work for us. They just needed to do their due diligence and review on their end.
Corey, if it's,
It's amazing that the building code requires PV readiness as part of designing a new building, and that you can't get the stuff online, even though you are providing it as part of the building infrastructure. It astounds me.
If it's not done, how does this affect the completion of the project? Like, if it's an outstanding matter, is it done? Like, how does that affect the status of completion, or what determines completion?
I think what we would do is similar to like the lawn establishment. So when we vote for substantial completion, we would just exclude the PVs and the lawn establishment, and that would be reviewed in the spring. Hopefully by then maybe we can turn that on. But yeah, it would have to get excluded from the substantial completion.
If not, it would be money withheld in the contract unless some other agreement for putting up some kind of a bond was in place to protect the town or the city from having it be inoperational once it does come online. You don't want to get through with another study 2 years down the road and then have try to flip the switch and it doesn't work, and then you've already paid out all the money and you don't have any recourse. So we'd have to work that out, and unfortunately that just drags out final turnover of the project. I think that from the OPM's point of view, we'd have to look at whether or not that affects our ability to, the timeline for submitting to the MSBA for final completion and being able to get the final 5% of your money, which is held by the MSBA until after the audit.
Right.
Is this gonna cost us money?
It shouldn't
gonna cost
cost
us
you
any
money
money?
because neither us nor Consigli is gonna bill you more money for being on the job any longer than we are now. The only way it would cost you money is if we paid out all the money to the people making the PV system, and then it turned out not to work, and then we had to pay someone else to come in and fix it, but we're not gonna do that.
It's gonna cost us money, Mason?
My concern would be the final 5% reimbursement and the timing around around loan authorization, right? Around money that you have bonded out.
What would be the loss of electricity that it should be generating now that it won't be until it's getting online?
Well, that's certainly a cost. Part of the problem here was we changed the address of the school. Part of the problem was they thought it was Brennan Middle School that was the project. And part of the problem is just that this is I should say that Griffin's representative stepped up to the plate and admitted that they had dropped the ball because they started last January in this process, and they just didn't follow up properly. They didn't submit the proper paperwork. So the fact that the mayor was able to establish this meeting that we had by Zoom the other day was really important, because it got everybody together, and we got we put up on the screen where the school is. We explained everything to them. So that was, it's unfortunate that didn't happen 6 months ago, but it is what it is. So anything else on punch list inside the school?
I just want to touch on, so the EV chargers, so the
Oh, yeah.
replacement chargers, what we submitted was approved by the design team.
You need a pen?
Do those as well. So those are going to be released. We're 4 to 6 weeks from getting those installed and operational.
And those can be installed in the winter quarry, right?
Yes. Yeah, so there's no new electrical or anything like that. We removed the old ones, installed the new ones, and reconnect.
All areas were paint peeled. Peeling paint?
Sorry.
Yeah, so peeling paint. So we received the review from Sherwin-Williams. We pushed it back because we thought there should be more information provided in the report. I spent some time on the phone with Sherwin-Williams, and we're not going to get much more out of them. So I need to send something to Skanska and KBA. But essentially, off the record, in speaking with them, based on the analysis of the paint chips that they took, the different layers of paint are bonding well to each other. There's no minimum thickness issues. There's enough coats that are required. The only thing they wouldn't put in the letter, because legally they wouldn't, but they wouldn't state why the peeling was happening, but off the record, he said during their walkthrough of the building, anywhere there was peeling paint is where a poster or a piece of paper was removed from the wall. And so anytime where you have something taped to a wall for 6 months or longer, or 4 months or longer, you're gonna have some sort of peeling when you go to remove that. It's just, that's why painter's tape says 14 days, and then you gotta remove it or you're gonna have issues, right? So they wouldn't put that in the letter. That's kind of what I was talking through with them. They wouldn't state the reasoning why the peeling's happening, but their letter basically says there's no bonding issue, adhesion issues with the paint itself.
So just so the public doesn't get upset, it's not like all the walls are peeling, it's in some very limited areas, correct?
That's correct.
And so therefore, I guess, Kate, probably need to be careful about how long things get taped up to walls for. Is that the bottom line, Corey?
Yeah, the painter had said they could recommend, I think they had already recommended some different adhesives that are better. But when you have acrylic tape and acrylic paint, you can get some strong bonds over time that really don't peel, come off well. And we saw that with like the gasket, the operable partition. The rubber gasket itself was kind of left up against the wall for an extended period of time, and then when that operable partition was moved, it peeled the paint off too. So even the rubber gasket to the paint had bonded because it sat unoperable for so long. So, I think we would offer to go through and touch up the paint. The painter said he would gladly do that, but we don't think there's a systemic issue or a widespread issue with the paint installation.
Has this paint product been used in other schools that have been done by you guys?
Yes, this is the standard LEED approved low VOC paint.
And the other locations didn't have similar
Sherwin-Williams said typically when this comes up, we say, yep, when you tape stuff to the wall and you remove it, that's going to happen. It's part of ongoing maintenance, and it stops at that. He said it's never really gotten this far where they were asked to do like put the paint chips under a microscope and see if there was any issues with the paint itself. Again,
We use the same paint on all our school projects and police station projects, fire station projects, painting drywall. So if it's durable in a police station, it's intended to be durable in a school also. The difference is that most police stations don't tape too many things up onto the wall and then take them off. If they put something on the wall as a notice, it usually stays there 25 years later. Or usually we put stuff on tack boards.
Anything else for your update?
Inside the kiln, the added AC for the kiln room, that is installed operational. The teacher ran one kiln at full temperature, and the room didn't get above 70 degrees. And I believe he's going to be running both. Is he doing that now? Or?
He's done both.
Oh, he's done both. So it seems like the added AC is doing its job,
And it
which is great.
didn't cause any damage or anything, Kate, with the two on? No?
Yeah, we're trending it on the
150
BMS,
degrees.
and it didn't go over 70 degrees over
Yeah.
the last week. So
Yeah.
if he ran both, then that's good. And really down to, we have some replacement seat numbers for the auditorium coming in. I think I saw an email earlier today, 11:30 is when those will be available, and we'll sneak in and swap those out. And then we're working on just putting a list together for some work that we need to do, that's what temperature and weather dependent, that we'll be doing when we come back in the spring. So I think we've mentioned there's 3 dead trees in the back plaza that need to get replaced. So there's a little bit of work there. Obviously, we got to dig up the pit and replace the tree, so we'll have to coordinate that with the school. The design team was out looking at our bus loop pond and issued a sketch with some regrading and a different type of grass seed that should be able to absorb, like more like a wetland grass seed. So we'll be doing that in the spring. And there's some punch list work that needs to happen at the playground. So Skanska brought in a third-party safety inspector to look at like fall radiuses and any potential safety issues with the playground. And there was a couple things that need to get addressed with the playground equipment. So we'll be putting that list together. We'll provide it at the OAC meeting, and we can share it here as well. But really getting down to those small items. I think the scoreboard, Jason, did they do the scoreboard training with you?
Not as of yet, no.
So we're working on getting the scoreboard. The scoreboards are up and running. We just need to schedule the training with Jason and Mark Wool. I think that's pretty much it.
I noticed the accent lighting on the front of the building. Is that something that's
Yep.
been,
So it took us a while to get to that point. We had like 8 bad fixtures, got them all working, and then there's, as you can see, there's 2 more that went bad out there. So we're waiting a little bit just to see if any more go bad, and then we'll get those replaced under warranty.
warranty time? What's the duration of the warranty on those? Or is
The fixture itself, I'd have to look. It's probably 5 years on the fixture itself. Labor is only 1, but because they, it was identified within the 1-year warranty period, Griffin's covering the replacement cost.
LED bulbs are not like fluorescent bulbs or anything like that, so they should last a long time. I think it's a question of the mechanics.
Yeah, it's the like the
and-
driver.
Yeah, and stuff like that, that's the problem. It's not necessarily the light itself. But working the kinks out in the warranty period is the preferable way to do it, rather than having it fail after a year.
But all the components that are failing are mounted up high. They're not somewhere that they failed
I
after.
don't know that that's the case.
They're above the ceiling on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
So they're relatively accessible.
Yeah, they're accessible. There's 3 of them. They're one on the east side, one on the west side, and one in the middle in the library.
If we're changing the fixtures, that would be different. That would be much more difficult.
Ray, I know you're time pressured tonight, so before we go to Anjanette for the bills, for the future, I know our next meeting is December 20th, but are we looking at perhaps suspending these meetings after that for a while?
I think so. The only question would be if there's some small requisitions in December that, if we could do a remote vote or if the mayor's authorized to approve. But I think meeting in December and then maybe January or February not meeting, I think there won't be much going on at that point.
And then reconvene probably.
And reconvene
Springtime.
in March.
Right, right. And then once we have like the final invoices and whatnot, we'll have to reconvene to vote on that.
Correct.
Vote to approve all the final stuff as well, so.
Correct.
When did we expect the vote on substantial completion?
In the next December.
December
Yeah.
20th meeting. And then there'd probably be a final one in April or May, right?
Correct. Yep.
Corey, I got 2 questions. One, why are they waiting till the spring to put the tennis court nets up? I'm sure the public would like to use them if they're available.
We can put them up, but
The athletic director asked that they not be put up.
Why? I agree. I was thinking the same thing. Why?
We can put them up. I think that there wasn't gonna be a ton of usage in the winter months, and it would just take the nets would take a beating, with the
Weather.
weather, but fencing is good to go. I mean, we're we're at Thanksgiving, but it was with the intent of, eliminating any use from the community, but just what was the reality of use for the tennis court.
Yeah, they would probably take the nets down for the winter anyway.
That's
regular year.
been the best practice.
Yeah.
is to just to preserve them.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, isn't the A in the rotary supposed to be lit up?
yes, it is.
It has ground lighting on it.
I've never
It's
seen
not,
it
it's
lit
not
up.
internally lit. When I drove by it coming in, it was lit from lights in the ground. You could see it when you came by,
It turns
right?
on when all the other parking lot lights turn on. So if the parking lights were on, they should be on.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions for Corey? No, all right, moving right along, Anjanette, you're up.
Corey's gotta leave, so I'll make it super quick. So we have, this month, we had, it's actually for the month of October, we have the Skanska invoice, it's for $107,340. We had the KBA invoice, it was $63,309 was the total, and that included the contract work that they do, the designers do. There was also 2 other invoices from their subs, I believe, related to the irrigation specialist, is that correct? Yeah, and then Consigli's invoice, the amount certified was $1,732,047.15. That included the retainage paid to Northeast Contractors, Emmanuel Rustic Fire Protection, and Harold Brothers. And then the final invoice was to J.P. LaRue. They were the third-party playground inspector that the owner procured per our contract requirements, and that was for $1,190. So the total invoice was $1,903,886. $1,903,886, and that bills us out to about 98% total.
You're the wrong one, Anjanette.
The wrong one?
Jackie?
Oh, that's okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Hold on, what's the wrong one?
Oh, he brought up the
I
wrong
think I
one.
brought up the wrong.
One you have, you
Oh, okay,
should
the
have
numbers are
one.
right, the
Yeah, these are
what was
correct.
on the screen
Yeah,
was
yeah,
wrong.
this- Yes,
No,
yes, yeah.
Well, this was what was sent out with the agenda.
Right,
This is correct.
so this is the one that we have here, in the agenda here is correct, right.
When are we gonna see those street
is correct.
That's correct.
plans?
That is correct.
Ken,
I was
here we
looking at
said,
this number.
The street
That's the-
acceptance
what you said.
plans?
That's,
that they were printing them.
yeah,
this week.
yeah, that's
By end of
that's
week.
your,
That's,
that's
right,
the
right, right,
construction
right.
Either I'll
management.
deliver them or they'll mail them.
Right.
I'll let you know when they go out.
All right, any comments, questions about the bills and payments? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Approved. All right, you want to have a moment for our other discussion? You good with the street acceptance?
Just that, one of the things we need to do is to accept the new north-south connector. And Joe, do you want to just state what the status is on the documents for that?
The printing is happening this week. We should have it by the end of the week, and as I said, I will let you know either if I deliver them personally or if they're mailed to Gary.
Yeah, and then we'll arrange with the mayor to get that sent down to the council for acceptance.
All right, any other closing remarks before we, okay, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:08.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.